know your name, I swear I do. It's on the tip of my tongue. Sorry, what did you say? And I've known you for how long? Your face is so familiar, but no name comes to mind. Please, can you remind me if you'll be so kind? Staring out into space, asking God to hear my case. Trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last?
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and founder of Alzheimer Speaks. For those of you that are new to our show, I always just like to tell people a little bit about us because we're always getting new listeners. So bottom line, Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. We're also known as a media outlet as well because we do the radio show, we do video interviews, we've got the blog, and a pretty massive website. So that's kind of who we are in a nutshell. Our belief really is formulated around bringing forces together regarding dementia and caregiving and sharing knowledge and having just really simple everyday conversations about life with aging and dementia and how we can remove stigmas and empower people to live purpose-filled lives together and help remove some of the stigmas and myths and the fear and isolation that so many people feel out there today. It's just critical that we come together as a community. We also believe that collaboration is the only way we're going to win the battle against dementia, and I know it's working thanks to all of you. You see, your likes, your clicks, and your shares for the radio show, for the website, for the blog, the YouTube channel, all the different formats that we push information out. When you share that with your sphere, you're pushing it out, making it a little easier for your friends and colleagues to tap into the information as well. And it's so critical because like with anything else, people are going to be ready when they're ready, and we can't force them to be ready. And so the more information that's out there, the more conversations to be had about life with dementia, the easier it's going to feel a little bit more normal to grab a hold and help hopefully remove some of the shame that people feel that is attached to it. So again, I would appreciate if you wouldn't mind just liking us and sharing this information and kind of keep that ripple effect going. You see, because of you, we were also named the #1 influencer regarding Alzheimer's online, according to ShareCare. And Maria Shriver last fall recognized us as an architect of change as well. And, you know, I share those recognitions with all of you because we surely did not do that alone. So I really want to thank each and every one of our listeners for that. The other thing I want to remind people of is, you know, we talk to everybody here. So we talk with people living with dementia who are diagnosed, their family, their friends, advocates, business professionals, authors, singers, songwriters, movie directors, even Harvard Research has asked to be on the show. And so, again, everybody has a story and a passion, and we want to be able to help move that out into the world and help everybody just live a little bit easier with life. Now, for those of you that don't know, we are taking our first dementia-friendly cruise this fall, and I can't even say this fall anymore because it is fall. It's this Saturday. I'm so excited. We leave November 11th through the 18th, and we're going to the Caribbean, and we have a great group of people, both those living with dementia and their care partners, and we're just so excited to go. My team exists of 4 people with dementia: Michael Ellenbogen, Lori Shear, Mary Reed, and Harry Urban. And then our professionals are Cindy Lazinski, who is an RN in Colorado, who heads up a dementia-friendly community and movement out in northern Colorado. And then Becky Watson, who is a music therapist who is going to bring us lots of joy. And then, of course, our travel agent, Kathy Schoaf, will be coordinating things with Holland America. So we are very, very excited about that. I want to give a shout out to some of our sponsors because they've just been so lovely to us. And we have Music for Wellness. We have the Dementia Friendly Communities of Northern Colorado. Johns Hopkins University Press is sending a couple of books out. Bright View Senior Living is also sponsoring a book, Cruising Through Caregiving, by Jennifer Fitzpatrick. Free to Go Mobility, Anita Jader Photography, and the American Senior Magazine. We just so appreciate your sponsorship and support for this cruise, and we can't wait to tell everybody all about it. But in the meantime here, let me get to our guest. We have Carol Marak, who is an aging expert and syndicated columnist for SeniorCare.com. And Carol is a former family caregiver herself, who lived through the hardships of elder care and realized since she's aging alone, she'll have no one to depend on for care. So she has launched a really cool group called the Elder Orphan on Facebook. I love that name, Elder Orphan. And she also has the Age with Purpose newsletter that is just filled with great tips and tools. Carol has earned her Fundamentals of Gerontology certificate at UC Davis School of Gerontology. And like I said, I'm just thrilled to have her with us today. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Lori. And I wanted to say congratulations to your cruise, your very first cruise. How fun is that?
It's really quite exciting. People are asking us about the next one, and I want to wait and see how this one goes and what we need to tweak, because I know there'll be things that we need to adjust for, and then we'll plan. But I want to get through the first one. I know there's others that are out there now picking up on this. I think there's 3 or 4 of them that have formalized already, and so it seems to be catching on. And so it's exciting to be able to have people with dementia still participate and live fully and enjoy life. I think that's absolutely fantastic. But let's get to you. You have had an interesting career, and I think it's fabulous that you're kind of targeting this elder orphan and aging alone, because I think it's a very under-recognized and appreciated situation that's out there in our world. So what makes aging alone different from other aging situations, Carol?
Well, actually, Lori, I think each of us face aging alone, even if you're married or not. Because, think about it. My sister was married. Her husband died. And now she's aging alone. And she does have a son. However, he lives hundreds of miles away. So I think no matter what circumstance you're in, many of us face aging alone. But I think for those people who are in a similar situation as I am, meaning no spouse, no children, then it is harder, I think, because first off, we are relying only on ourselves to pay the bills. We have no other income, Social Security, any retirement income other than our own. However, our bills, utility bills, mortgage, car payment, they're all the same as those shared by 2 people. So that's probably...
It's a really nice point that you make, that even if you are with somebody right now, that doesn't mean you will be forever. And just to even mentally prepare for that and physically consider that impact, that sooner or later, one of you isn't going to be there anymore because chances are you're not going to exit the earth at the same time. And I don't think that and I don't think that that's a conversation most people even think about at all.
No.
We kind of get in our comfort zone, and these are scary conversations because they're a lot to take on. And so I thank you for really pushing this to the forefront. And I know so many people that live alone, people with dementia, people without dementia, at all different ages. And it seems like society today, the relationship itself doesn't seem quite as important as it used to. And I might be wrong on that, but that's just kind of my perception in terms of the value of being together. And myself, I'm divorced, so I have a wonderful daughter who I really do think will take care of me well. But you don't know what her circumstances are going to be, and you can't rely on that stuff either. So and for my friends like you that aren't married and don't have kids, they're fearful. I mean, they're downright fearful of what will happen to them when they see some of our other friends age and maybe get ill. How do you cope with that?
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a very good question. How do we cope with it? Well, others cope with it better than some. Many of as a matter of fact, I can use the members in the elder orphan group who are the majority have no children or spouse. And, I would say the majority of them are very fearful and are, constantly discussing their fears and what they're afraid of and their health issues. And me, on the other hand, and there's a smaller group of us who aren't as fearful. I think, first of all, because we stay so busy with our lives and we really focus on the positive and trying to create a life worth living and one that is supportive with companions, surrounded by companions and support and love and concern, that we aren't as fearful. So I think that's one of the first things to do. If you can change your mental attitude about being alone, yes, it is a fearful situation. But I think if you dwell on it and become very sensitive to, oh my gosh, what is going to happen to me, without taking steps forward and creating a life of purpose, then yes, you will have fear, and that will probably, take you, set your life back a step or two. But I try to remain, and few of the members remain very active and positive in their thoughts. Mm-hmm. So that, and that's probably one of the best things to do, is to stay active and mentally challenged and just keep moving forward. Because as they say, life happens, right? You have no control over it, none.
Exactly. And that's a really good point. And I think we all have this premise that, life is supposed to be perfect and that we're in control, and we really control very, very, very little when it comes to things, is kind of what I've learned.
Lori, there are things that we can control. We can control our attitude.
Yeah.
We can control who we hang out with and how we fill our day, the food that we eat, the activities we're active in or we participate in. And our health. I mean, some of us, unfortunately, have illnesses that we have no control over, but we do have control over the food we eat and staying fit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that that's really very, very important. I think mindset is so huge in terms of where our lives lead us and, if we're going to be happy or not. And
Right.
sometimes shifting that mindset can be difficult if someone is going through a loss or a divorce, or just not feeling equal to everyone else. I mean, there's so many different situations out there. How do you recommend kind of shifting? You know, if we've got listeners that might be struggling right now, shifting that perception, because to me that is almost the key of getting the other things in play. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Please feel free to challenge me on that. But I really kind of think it starts kind of with our heart and our mind and our beliefs to move forward.
Well, coming from losing my parents, my dad lived with Alzheimer's, and I lost both of my parents. So I went through a great deal of grieving. I've gone through divorce. I've gone through breaking up with a partner, losing a pet, and losing a business, quite a bit of money at the same time. And this was years and years ago. So I've been through my own loss, through many losses. And so how I handle that, and I really encourage people who are going through a loss at this time to reach out and ask for support and find it any way you can. Fortunately for me, through going through grieving with my parents' death, I reached out to hospice. And they were a really huge support system for me, and I attended several of their grieving support classes, and stayed in contact with other members like me who had lost parents or a spouse or a child, and we helped one another. We helped one another. We were a support team for each other. So I encourage you to reach out and get help, even if you're suffering from depression, because, life throws a lot of curveballs. And if you find yourself feeling sad and lonely and unable to get up and go and make changes, then get help. I mean, call a psychologist, get a reference, maybe a reference through a friend who might suggest a good psychotherapist. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. And I've done that also for many years, as a matter of fact. And I think if I had not, then my life after going through all those losses would be completely different than it is today.
And I think that is great advice. I think some people feel there's so much shame wrapped into, calling to get help. And it's like, that's what it's there for, to support you through this. There shouldn't be any shame in that at all. I mean, everybody has their ups and downs and, has different coping mechanisms, along the way. And, I totally believe in reaching out for a hand too. One of the things I'll just mention that we did in my, we have a dementia-friendly group in Roseville, Minnesota, and we created, it's called the Dementia Caregiver Reentry Program. And it's for people who have, lost their loved one to dementia. We have two different groups. One is they've physically lost their loved one, and the other group is a mixture of those who have actually lost somebody or who are getting really close and towards the end of the journey. And we just, in fact, on Thursday, I'm going to be doing a presentation on what we've learned during that time. And we model them over like the memory cafe so that they're just very conversational, and it isn't anything. It's not a grief counseling. They didn't want an 8-week course and then go back home alone again. They wanted to be able to participate as long as they could. And really what it came down was to be able to meet and talk with others that are going through a similar situation, which sounds, like what you're doing on Facebook with your elder orphan group. I think that communication and that connection and that understanding is so valuable. And, just knowing that you're talking to somebody who gets the space you're in, doesn't judge you, but just accepts you. And
absolutely.
And I think that can be really undervalued too. I don't think people understand the importance. One of the things I've seen in like the Facebook groups, and I'm interested if you've seen it with your elder orphan group, is the depth of the conversations and the intimacy, that's created through that, because they're not talking about the weather and they're not talking about sports. I mean, they're talking about real life issues that sometimes they don't even share with best friends and, or family members, because they know they're going to get the roll of the eyeball or somebody's not going to understand. Do you see that in your group as well?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, some members, even before they post or while they're posting, they're thinking, because they'll say it in the discussion, they'll make a comment. Oh, I hope my friends don't see this. I hope my friends or my family members don't see my comments here or my discussion. So yes, indeed, it's very, very intimate, and we share some really incredibly sensitive topics, and so I'm just very tuned in to making sure that they get support especially when someone's talking about depression and feeling very sad, not having anyone to turn to. But I have to say the members have just pleasantly surprised me by giving and reaching out and sending private messages to one another just of support and exchanging phone numbers, not in the group itself, but through private messages so that they can connect with one another. As a matter of fact, many, and I've started one here in Dallas, but many members are breaking off into local groups so that they can visit face-to-face rather than just on Facebook.
Yep. How nice is that?
And build a support.
That is just fantastic. And I don't. Do you think the medical profession understands or accepts the impact that these groups have yet? Because sometimes I don't think they're quite there.
You mean the medical profession accepting support being a viable solution?
Well, support that isn't. Well, I guess support that isn't. It isn't run by a social worker. It isn't run all the time by a psychiatrist. But just sometimes it's lay people that have just been through the process, and I see that with a multitude of different groups out there that are so powerful and are doing great things. And yet there seems to be this, or it's on the internet. Those aren't real relationships.
Oh, I don't hear that.
Okay.
No, I don't hear that. I'm sorry. You are.
No. Yeah, no. I'm glad you're not, because I have definitely, when I go around the country, I hear that from people. I think it's starting, to change more so. But it's and the people in the groups just say how powerful these are, just to be able to align with other like-minded parties with that. What kind of advice can you give to care providers to help those who are aging alone?
There's been a great deal of research about elder orphans, and it was it was spearheaded by a geriatrician up in the Northeast in New York. Her name is Dr. Carney, and she's a wonderful advocate for people like me, because of course she's a geriatrician. Of course, she works with older individuals or older patients, and many times she sees patients who are without support at home really fall through kind of fall through the eyes or the care guidelines of the system, because especially, well, no, I can't say especially, but many times care providers, healthcare providers, any senior care providers don't really acknowledge this group or this segment or even question, because it seems like our society is so gun-ho on families, right? The traditional families, the married couple, the with 2 children, right? I mean, that's how we kind of have forced our mindset to perceive each individual. Well, guess what, folks? Not all of us fall into that category. As a matter of fact, close to 30% of the people over the age of 65 do live alone. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a partner or they've never been married, or they don't have children, but they are living alone. And Dr. Carney calls this segment living in plain sight. Or hidden in plain sight. We're all around. We're in church or synagogues. We're part of the community. We're embedded. We participate in many of the same social groups, but we're not seen because we're assumed to have at least an adult child living nearby, or having an adult child who will come to our rescue. And we don't. So it's a big wake-up call that people who are caring for the elderly population and those over the age of, say, 60, 65, really need to, first of all, just understand that we, not all of us have someone we depend on. We are alone. I mean, immensely alone. Many people in my group can't even drive a car or don't have access to a car. And they're always struggling. Well, how am I going to get to the doctor? How am I? And it's really funny. Once they even get to the doctor doesn't even ask, do you have support at home? Who's helping you?
Yep. Yeah. So and such a critical, such a simple but yet critical question to ask of people, and to really be open to listening to the answer too. And I think some of it is just the time frames now. With the medical appointments, it's chop chop. You're in and out, and it would almost be nice if there was social services really tied in, to those doctor's appointments, or a nurse or an LPN that could go a little deeper.
Or how about just making an entry on the questionnaire, our medical history, that we have to fill out? How about asking, do you live alone? I mean, that's a pretty simple question. Yep. How close is a support person or someone you can depend on? How close in proximity are they to you? I mean, that's pretty simple. So, it's changes like that. And, that's, I know Dr. Carney is certainly trying to change in her own professional world. Yeah, there's and again, really simple things, and hopefully with the day and age of computers, and a lot of times now there's a nurse or somebody taking notes while the doctor's having the conversation, that they can change some of these profiles to plug this information in, just like they do review our medications, and our aches and woes. Those types of things are so critical, because they, like you said, do you have someone you can depend on to help you, or are you giving discharge papers to somebody who really can't do for themselves, and yet there's not a second thought unless it's brought to their attention, and sometimes
it has to be brought to their attention kind of severely sometimes in situations. It would just make it, I think, easier on everybody and create much less risk and much more support with, like you said, just such a simple change. But I think with, Dr. Carney, it's kind of a lead by example thing, getting some of these things through, and talking to more people and getting that ripple effect, because, the big machine doesn't move quickly in terms of changes. But I think it's up to us as individuals, too, to bring these comments up, to inform our doctors, to help educate them on, this is important in terms of my overall health care, and this is a question you should be asking. And I think if we all get out there like little soldiers and talk about that can help educate them, too, and maybe move that ball a little bit faster. What kind of advice do you have to give people who are in your situation of living alone, and to really prepare them for the various elderly stages of life? And and I don't know if you have specific stages that you refer to, but I know that there can be many, because they say 85 is the new 65, and people don't feel their age either, and so there's big controversy over that as well.
Well, first off, I don't think I wouldn't advise anyone just to look at their life in stages, although you might want to kind of reevaluate your life in terms of time spans or milestones, I would say, or if you want to call it stages, fine. But for example, when I turned 60, I really needed to think about my future in terms of where I plan to land and stay put. Do I want to age at home? Do I want to retire to a assisted living community? So I started thinking through how I wanted to live my life, and that's what I advise other people. For me, and the majority of seniors, I should say, really want to live at home and age in place. So knowing that about myself, okay, so what is my home like now? Well, it was 2 stories, Okay, well, it was in the suburban area. I had to drive everywhere for grocery shopping or activities or what have you. So I literally rented a place. I sold my home, rented a 1-bedroom condo in downtown Austin. This is when I was living in Austin, and I lived in downtown Austin, and I allowed myself to discover what life would be like if I didn't need a car, if I couldn't drive anymore. Could I still get around? Am I healthy enough? Well, that really forced me to start eating more healthy, to start walking more, to be more active physically, and to keep as best I could, my mind alert. Because I knew that one day I'm going to be like my mom and my dad, who my mother couldn't drive anymore. So she relied on us, the kids, to take her to the doctor's appointments. So I guess my point being, you really think about your life and what are your chronic issues right now. I mean, are you living with arthritis? How are you caring for your own personal health? Are you staying fit? Will you be able to drive 5-10 years from now? And who's to say you'll even be alive 10 years from now? But at least you can start feeling like you're taking some control of your life, right? And you're putting yourself and creating a circumstance and a living situation that you have more control over. And so that's what I've done for myself. And I think it's important for everyone to do that. And of course you need to really think through your finances and affordable housing. Can you afford where you're living right now? Are you able to get around in terms of transportation? Do you have all your legal affairs in order? Do you have someone nearby who can be your healthcare proxy, who can help you make decisions, who can help you think through, a terminal illness, for example, or even another, even if you happen to get sick, is there someone nearby that you can rely on?
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, it's one thing that, I love I love living alone. I think it's wonderful, well, that's one thing when you're 55 or even 60 and you're in great health. But what happens if you fall and break a leg?
Yep.
To start dealing with the what ifs right now while you are healthy and happy,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a really, really good point because, things can turn quickly, really, really quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
In those situations.
Absolutely.
And just thinking about who you want to care for you too. I think that's something we don't think about. Who would you trust to be involved in your life decisions, and have you thought about what you want in various life decisions too as time goes on? Those are really uncomfortable conversations for many, and it's kind of silly because it's really just about it's a good business of living,
I agree.
To put thought into those things.
Absolutely.
Gosh.
And to make sure you're not isolated. I can't tell you how I have seen friends of mine who isolate at home, and I am telling you, they in a matter of 6 months to a year, they change, almost to a point that it's scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
They become withdrawn. They don't talk very much. They're not active. They don't stay, they don't participate in life. They just withdraw, and that can't be healthy. It just can't be.
Yep. Yeah. Everybody needs that balance and needs to feel purposeful. That's just kind of a given with everybody. I think that's part of the problem, with today and in all of the horrible things that are happening is people aren't feeling connected. They're not feeling full. And we're seeing severe repercussions of that. And so as a society, I think we have to really pay much, much better attention and support one another because, and again, I think this is something most people don't think about it. We could be next. It could be us. even if we're living with a whole family, not just a partner, they could be wiped out in a car accident. Not that I want everyone, going down the rabbit hole worried about that, but it, we don't have control over some of those things, and we could be next. And it might be something we've never imagined, but how much of life is stuff that we never imagined, that just occurs.
Exactly. And
being educated and being connected and feeling, strong about just knowing about options is so much better than falling into a crisis and someone else has to make your choices for you. Or you have very limited choices, if you're able to make them. We all want to be independent. And so to be the most independent we can be, we really need to address some of these situations that can occur and some of these stages that are going to hit us probably sooner or later, even if they're uncomfortable conversations. Great things can come from uncomfortable conversations. I truly believe that.
Oh, and, absolutely.
We can learn so much from one another. What have you learned from your elder orphan group that you'd like to share with our audience?
I think from my group, the first thing that I have learned is that I am not alone. By just having a group to go to, even if it's on Facebook, for crying out loud, I still feel connected. It helps me know that there are others like me who are facing the same situation, the same challenges, and the same fears that I face. And knowing that I'm not alone, it empowers me. It empowers me to do something about it because it feels like I have a force with me. Do you know what I mean? You know, I have people saying rah, rah right behind me, saying, yes, you can do this. Yes, you can stay healthy. Yes, you can get the best care that is possible. Yes, you can be motivated and inspired and still have fun even at my age, right? You know, that it's possible to still live a life worth living. So I would say that's probably one of the best things I have learned through the group.
Oh, and I mean, powerful stuff, though. I mean, just that not feeling alone. I mean, that is so, it's such a dreadful thing to feel out of sync, you know.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And I know, and yet there can be people out there that feel alone together, and that's nasty too. But then maybe they need to look at their situation and make some adaptions too, because loneliness comes in a lot of different forms, and that discomfort, that, you know, feeling ostracized, and I mean, it just comes in so many different forms, in so many different ways, and I don't think people always understand the impact that they have on one another, and what a roll of the eyes or a gasp that they're not even aware they're doing can have on somebody who's feeling down or alone, and you know, just kind of that nail on the coffin, and makes them not want to reach out and not feel accepted. So I think we all have to really look at our nonverbals, because I think we're affecting not just people living alone, but our community and our families and friends at large, with communications that we don't even know we're doing so much of the time, because everything's gotten so fast-paced.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, everything has gotten fast-paced. And another thing to be kind of pay attention to, if you are married and you have children, or even if you're not married and you have a nearby adult child, just be cognizant of the loneliness that a person might feel who does not have that type of support with them.
Yep.
Because I see that in my group. I'll have, let's say, one of the members, of course, is divorced, or she may be widowed, or he may be widowed, and yet they have an adult child. That child may live hundreds of miles away, but even so, they'll post, "Oh, we're getting together for the holiday." Well, yes, and we're all very happy for you. Just be cognizant that there are very lonely people in this group who do not have that type of that camaraderie and that, friendship or kinship to rely on for the holidays, because the holidays are such a tough time.
Yeah.
So just be sensitive, just be sensitive to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you want to share your joy. Yes, absolutely. So just be sensitive at the same time.
Yeah, very, very, very important. What do you have, as far as the holidays, because that is coming up. What can people do to feel a little bit more connected?
Well, it's interesting because even in the local groups, if you connect with one or two of them, this is how people in the group is how they're handling it. If they live in a local area where another member is living, usually they'll just get together and have a potluck, right? Or even if you're not a member, if you have neighbors and you live in a neighborhood, then that's when I give a shout out to the people who have families. Invite a neighbor who doesn't have a place to go over for lunch or dinner. To have a meal, share a meal with us. Or others, if you are alone and you don't want to share a meal with someone, then go to make reservations at a restaurant if you can afford to do that. Or to create a special day for you. A lot of members do that. They'll buy flowers, light candles, have a glass of wine, decorate their table, and really make that day very special. Just do some of their favorite things that particular day, so that they don't feel so alone and sad. Yeah, and it is nice to be able to get together with others. I know myself. Sometimes I like just being alone though, because I don't get much alone time, and so I kind of appreciate that downtime. But yet when I'm able to get together with if it's family or if it's friends. It's nice to be around people that you want to be around versus who you have to be around sometimes, or feeling that too. But I have a lot of single friends who get together, and I mean they have a riot, because it's all people they want to be around. There's not an obligation. It really is. They want to spend the time with one another, and so finding those people can make a huge, huge difference in your life. But, sometimes we have to say goodbye to others that aren't filling us so much in order to make room for those other sources too. Isn't that the truth? Yes, absolutely. And that can be tough, when you're alone or when you're together, to say, these people don't align with me anymore. This doesn't make me feel good. And, it's scary, because then you look at, now they're leaving you. And it's like, no, really, it's a mutual agreement when you look at it. I mean, if they don't understand that, I think you have to kind of rely on your gut with that stuff. And I've done that several times, kind of done a sweeping out and reanalyzing of who I want in my life and who I don't. And, it's been a very difficult time every time I've done it, but it's been an amazing kind of recovery period of who's wandered into my life after I've done it too. And I think I've always felt in the long run, it's been a really good lesson and made me feel more whole. Oh, good. Yeah. I think that I agree. I understand. Yeah. So in wrapping up, I just want to ask you why aging with purpose is so important to you and for older adults. Having a sense of inspiration, of having something in your life worth waking up to. Is what will keep you going. You know, if you have no reason to get out of bed, whatever that reason is, if it's to read the newspaper, do the crossword puzzle, play a game on your iPad, whatever that reason is, to get up out of bed and have a cup of coffee, something to do that'll bring a smile on your face. That in itself will help feed your soul. I know those are very simple kind of actions or activities, but believe it or not, there are more seniors today playing games and participating in hobbies than ever before in this world. And I think it's wonderful, because you're learning a new skill. You're maintaining and you're maintaining connection, even if you don't get together with a group of people, you're still maintaining some type of connection that keeps you going. Mm-hmm. So it's so important to have a purpose. You know,
yep.
You don't have to have a job to have a purpose. You know, I mean, I have a job, and that's my big purpose. But if I didn't have one, there's so many other things that I would be doing. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to make jewelry. I'm taking classes and making jewelry.
Oh, cool!
And I'm so excited about it. And it's learning a new skill and going to a class where there's other people who want to learn how to do this hobby. That that I think will keep me fresh, keep my mind fresh, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I totally agree with that. And, you know, people are living longer, and so, and they're feeling younger. Most of them, you know, are saying, you know, like I said, that, you know, 65 is the new 85 that was, and people just, they're not. Well, and maybe I'm saying this because I'm one now, but being a grandma today isn't being a grandma to when even my mom was one, or when her mom was a grandma.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it has changed so significantly, and I think it's wonderful, you know. But I think it's because people feel engaged. People feel. This isn't the end. It's just another stage, you know, and we don't know how long that next stage is going to be. But people are learning to adapt to the stage instead of kind of giving into all the rhetoric of, you know, this is it, you know, buckle up, it's over. People are kind of fighting that more, which I think is great, and looking for new opportunities, and know that they, you know, are feeling confident that they are valued, and that they do have valuable skill sets and knowledge and wisdom to be able to offer others. And I love seeing that. I love seeing the intergenerational stuff that's happening, and there's just so many cool opportunities. You know, all you have to do is think one up and go after it, you know. And
yeah, that's right.
And see what happens. So, well, Carol, this has just been a really fun conversation with you today, and I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
I just encourage people to, you know, to break out if you're sad, or if you're isolated, if you're feeling disconnected from the world. I encourage you to open that door and just take one step at a time. Whatever that is, it could be calling a neighbor. It could be calling a friend you haven't spoken to in a month. It could be sending an email. Who knows what that one thing can do, but do something that helps you reconnect with your inner, you know, your inner source.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I think that's great advice.
Yeah, thank you. I just don't, I mean, I see so much isolation and disconnection that it saddens me that it just doesn't have to be that way. You know, I think we are a product of our own, you know, our own surmise, I guess, or however we live our life. We're a product of it. So, and you have control to break free of it.
Yeah.
If you're sad.
Well, you know, one of the things, I used to sell real estate before I got into this, so that was like 10 years ago. But for 25 years, I sold real estate, and my focus really was the senior market. And, you know, so many people would say, you know, you're taking me out of here feet first. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to one of those places. And, I mean, just over and over and over. And then things would change, and they'd end up moving, and then I couldn't even get a hold of them because they were so busy. And they would always say, I didn't know I was lonely because I just got used to it. And I didn't know how much I missed this. Because a lot of times it can happen slowly. and you just adjust, because people don't whine and they just kind of handle it. And then all of a sudden, their families are going, oh my gosh, mom or dad, they're just social butterflies. They are constantly busy. They're so much happier. They're so much more active. Their health is better. I mean, it just on and on and on the list goes, I think, when we feel engaged. And
absolutely.
And that social interaction, I think we have to really look at the power behind it. And I think we have to discuss it more. And, you might not always find the perfect group of people right away. But don't stop. You didn't when you were in school either. There were different cliques, and you just had to work your way into the right one, that was going to fit for you. And, and maybe you're going to be one of those eclectic people that just kind of moseys through the different groups of people. You don't have to stay with something forever. This isn't an all or nothing. I think there's just so much opportunity out there for people, just so much opportunity. And I really thank you for your work so much, and would encourage people to check out the Elder Orphan on Facebook, and then also sign up for Carol's newsletter, the Age with Purpose newsletter. That's just filled with great tips and products and tools to kind of help you move along in stories. You can contact Carol via email at carol@seniorcare.com. That's carol@seniorcare.com. Or visit the website seniorcare.com. And then if you want the newsletter, just go to seniorcare.com/newsletter. And you can go ahead and sign up for that as well. Anything else that you'd like to add, Carol?
I think you've done a great job. Thank you, Lori. No, I think you've done a grand job. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much for being with us. I really appreciate it, Carol, and keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you, Lori. You too.
Great. I want to just follow up with a few things before we wrap up. And again, just remind people that all of our shows are archived. So we've been doing this like 6 years. So there's tons of them out there to listen to. Our most recent ones, we talked with Hertz from the Netherlands on changing your perception can change your outcome, and really trying to get people to stop talking about behaviors and look at them as signals. Because things need to change. We also did our first open mic back with Blog Talk, and we'll be doing more of those in the future where anybody can call in and talk about what's important to them regarding dementia and caregiving. And what else did I want to tell you? The interview I did with Hertz from the Netherlands, we also did a video of that as well, and you can find both of those on the website. Last, I'm just going to give a shout out to some more of our sponsors for the cruise coming up this weekend. The art kits, which are just great activities for people with memory loss. Calendar cards, which is a wonderful system to help people on their day-to-day schedules. And they also have the Memory Cafe directory.com, where you can look up where memory cafes are located in the country. Care to Plan, the Call Alert Center, Footprint ID. And then we had some wonderful books, the Little Book for Alzheimer's Caregivers and the Dementia Handbook, and Trinrose Seeley's 15 Minutes of Fame. So have a blessed week, everyone. And like I said, I'll be out of circulation, but we will talk to you all when I get back. We will do some pre-record shows next week for you, though. Thank you and goodbye.
Hi, I'm Lori LeBay, and And I wanted to tell you about Alzheimer Speaks, which is another great podcast. You see, my own mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and I felt lost. Did you know every 3 seconds someone in the world is being diagnosed with dementia? Odds are it's going to hit your families too. We want to help you connect to services, products, tools, research, and stories so you can be prepared. Please subscribe to Alzheimer Speaks on your favorite podcast platform.